2.5 Men premiered in 2003 and quickly skyrocketed to success with its sharp humor, quirky characters, and unforgettable moments. Millions tuned in each week to watch the dysfunctional, hilarious lives of Charlie, Alan, Jake, and the rest of the cast unfold. But behind the laughter and fame lies a more somber reality. Some of the beloved actors who made the show so special have tragically passed away. In this video, we take a closer look at the lives and careers of those cast members who are no longer with us. From sudden heartbreaking losses to long silent battles, their stories are both moving and unforgettable. Whether you're a lifelong fan or just discovering the show, this tribute will take you beyond the screen to reveal the real-life struggles and legacies left behind. Konchata Ferrell was born on March 28, 1943, and stepped into the role of Berta, the sarcastic streetwise housekeeper, in 2.5 Men in 2003 at the age of 60. Her portrayal became a fan favorite. Audiences loved Berta's brutal honesty, her deadpan wit, and her unflinching way of handling the chaos in Charlie Harper's bachelor pad. But Ferrell herself led a life riddled with quiet darkness. Raised in Loudondale, West Virginia, in a working-class, deeply religious household, Konchata grew up in an emotionally distant environment where affection was rare and expectations were strict. Her father, a steel worker with a drinking problem, often disappeared for days, leaving her mother to hold the family together in silence. As a child, Ferrell was ridiculed relentlessly for her weight and withdrawn nature. She internalized the abuse, developing a shield of humor and sarcasm that would later define her most iconic roles. Her early acting career was marred by the industry's obsession with youth and appearance. One studio exec allegedly told her, "You're talented, but you'll never be America's sweetheart." She was turned down from multiple leading roles, once replaced by a lesser-known actress, simply because the network thought Ferrell was too heavy for primetime. She nearly quit acting after suffering a nervous breakdown in the mid-90s, while juggling stage work and caring for her ailing mother. Though scandal-free publicly, Ferrell struggled privately with a food addiction and severe anxiety, often retreating from social events and isolating herself between seasons. Her long-term relationship with Arnie Anderson was unconventional. They lived apart for years, and Ferrell reportedly told friends she had no energy left for closeness. She never reconciled with a distant daughter from a previous relationship, and the estrangement haunted her. In her final years, Ferrell battled multiple illnesses and quietly revised her will, worried about being forgotten. She died on October 12, 2020, from complications following cardiac arrest at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, age 77. Her estate, worth approximately $10 million, included residuals from 2.5 Men, several modest real estate holdings, and vintage memorabilia from decades on stage. Carl Reiner, born on March 20, 1922 in the Bronx, New York, joined 2.5 Men as Marty Pepper in 2009 at the age of 87. Marty was loud, flirtatious, and unapologetically crude, a role that seemed like a playful exaggeration of Reiner's real-life bravado. But Carl's career, long and golden, was not without darkness. Born to poor Austrian Jewish immigrants, Carl grew up during the Great Depression in a cramped apartment where arguments over money and survival were daily occurrences. His older brother Charlie was drafted in a Wehrmacht and died in combat, an event that forever haunted Reiner and shaped his anti-war stance. Though Reiner found success writing and acting in early television, he was repeatedly undermined by studio heads who saw him as too Jewish for mainstream America. He spent years ghostwriting for comedians who refused to credit him. The 1950s and 60s brought him fame, but also paranoia. During the Red Scare, Reiner was investigated by the FBI due to his support for left-leaning artists. He was cleared, but it left a mark. His greatest disappointment came in 1972 when CBS rejected his semi-autobiographical series about grief after losing his brother. The network said the show was too depressing for primetime. In his personal life, Reiner was devoted to his wife Estelle, but her later battle with Alzheimer's devastated him emotionally. Friends say he fell into a deep depression and became increasingly withdrawn, declining public appearances and turning down major offers, including a memoir deal worth $2 million. His relationship with his children, especially Rob Reiner, grew tense in the 1980s as their careers collided. They reportedly stopped speaking for nearly 2 years over a dispute regarding a film credit. Carl passed away on June 29, 2020 at 98. in his Beverly Hills home alone, according to the nurse who found him. His estate, estimated at $70 million, included not only royalties and intellectual property from decades of television, but also unpublished scripts and handwritten letters now under archive review. Martin Mull, born August 18, 1943, brought to life the oddball character of Russell the pharmacist in 2.5 Men in 2008, joining the cast at 65. With his perpetually dazed expression and under-the-counter drug deals, Russell became one of the show's most delightfully bizarre recurring characters. Born in Chicago and raised in a nomadic household, his family moved nearly a dozen times before he turned 15. Martin grew up without stability. His mother, a failed actress, allegedly pushed him toward performance out of resentment, while his father, a scientist with rumored connections to classified Cold War projects, remained emotionally detached. Mull's early art career was eccentric but not lucrative. He lived in a van during his 20s and once resorted to selling fake celebrity hair on Venice Beach just to eat. Fame came slowly, but the bitterness never left. On sets, Mull developed a reputation as too smart for the room, a constant critic of lazy writing and shallow humor. Though never publicly disgraced, multiple sources from his time on sitcoms in the 80s described him as combative and unpredictable, often rewriting entire scripts or storming off set when creative control was challenged. He was once accused by a female co-star of creating a hostile environment through passive-aggressive behavior and undermining her performance, a claim that was quietly settled and buried. Mull's greatest career failure was The Martin Mull Show, a dark satire he pitched and financed independently in the 1990s. Despite praise from test audiences, the show was rejected by every major network. Mull sank over $1.3 million into the pilot, leading to years of financial strain. In his personal life, Mull married twice. His second marriage endured, but friends claimed he often lived in a separate guest house consumed by painting and paranoia about Hollywood stealing ideas. His relationship with his daughter Maggie was fraught with tension. Insiders allege she resented his emotional absence during her childhood. Martin Mull died on June 27, 2024, in Los Angeles at age 80 following a prolonged illness. His assets, valued at around $8 million, included an eccentric art collection, rare guitars, and a hidden estate in Oregon, rumored to be his private retreat from the entertainment industry. John Amos was born on December 27, 1939 in Newark, New Jersey, and appeared on 2.5 Men in 2010, playing Ed Chelsea's strict and stoic father when he was 70 years old. Known for his commanding presence and firm demeanor, Ed's character reflected Amos's off-screen persona, authoritative, traditional, and brutally honest. But behind that respected image was a complicated man whose personal and professional life was marked by sharp turns, isolation, and unresolved resentment. Raised in a working-class neighborhood plagued by racial tension and economic despair, Amos came from a fractured home with a disciplinarian mother and a largely absent father. His early years were marked by anger, humiliation, and suppression. Classmates often mocked his speech impediment and short temper, and Amos responded by retreating inward, fueling the aggressive energy that later defined many of his roles. Though he rose to prominence with Good Times, Amos was famously fired from the show for publicly criticizing its writers, calling them out for perpetuating black stereotypes. Hollywood quietly blacklisted him for decades. He was labeled difficult, and his career never fully recovered. In his final years, tragedy struck when his daughter Shannon accused his caretakers of elder abuse and financial manipulation, claims Amos shockingly denied, instead accusing his own daughter of trying to control his estate. The incident erupted into a public legal scandal exposing years of family dysfunction, emotional neglect, and conflicting accounts of betrayal. He passed away on August 21, 2024, from congestive heart failure at age 84, alone in his rural Colorado home. His net worth at the time of death was around $3 million, consisting of modest savings residuals from reruns and his property in Westcliff. Though he left behind an iconic legacy, it was also one riddled with bitterness, strained family ties, and the painful isolation that often follows once proud Hollywood figures into their twilight years. Georgia Engel, born on July 28, 1948 in Washington, D.C., played the endearing Jean in 2.5 Men in 2012 at 64 years old. Jean was sweet, soft-spoken, and unexpectedly involved in a late-in-life romantic entanglement with Alan's mother Evelyn, a twist that charmed viewers, but mirrored Engel's own unconventional path through Hollywood. Raised in a devoutly religious household, Engel adhered to the strict principles of Christian Science, which forbade most forms of medical treatment. As a child, she was shy, emotionally reserved, and often retreated into fantasy, using her voice, a high-pitched, delicate instrument, to mask anxiety and social discomfort. Throughout her career, Engel was typecast as the innocent oddball, always pleasant, never threatening. But beneath that facade was a woman plagued by loneliness and deep-rooted insecurities. She never married, never had children, and lived a life of near monastic solitude. Colleagues whispered of her almost pathological need for control, meticulous routines, obsessive neatness, and a refusal to engage in any confrontation. She quietly resented never being offered serious dramatic roles and found herself fading into the background in the final decades of her career. Engel's death on April 12, 2019, at age 70, came under strange and somber circumstances. Due to her religious beliefs, she refused all medical intervention, despite persistent health issues. The official cause of death remains undetermined. Some believe she died in unnecessary pain and isolation, surrounded only by a few caretakers and no family. Her net worth was estimated at $8 million, stemming largely from royalties from The Mary Tyler Moore Show and other long-running sitcoms. While her public image was that of angelic purity, the private Engel was a tragic figure, disconnected from modern life, clinging to faith and routine in a world that moved too fast for her quiet rhythms. Her passing was a stark reminder that fame does not insulate one from silent solitude or the darker shadows of spiritual absolutism. Cloris Leachman, born on April 30, 1926, played the outrageous and wealthy Norma in 2.5 Men in 2005 at the age of 79. Norma was everything Leachman had perfected over decades, a dangerously flirtatious, sharp-tongued woman who unapologetically pursued Charlie Harper, turning what could have been a throwaway guest role into one of the show's most chaotic romantic detours. But behind her effortless performance was a woman who had long used comedy to mask profound trauma. Raised during the Great Depression in a cold, emotionally distant household in Iowa, Leachman learned early to keep her feelings hidden, mocked by peers for being too intense, and often punished at home for acting out. These emotional scars lingered beneath her public persona. Though she found fame early, her career wasn't always smooth. During the 1990s, she clashed notoriously with studio executives and once stormed off a set mid-production over a script change, leading to her being quietly dropped from several roles. Insiders say she had a zero tolerance for incompetence, which translated into frequent outbursts. Her worst professional fallout came in 2001 when a backstage tirade about age discrimination led to her being unofficially blacklisted by one major network. Personally, her life was equally stormy. Her marriage to director George Engel was marred by infidelity and emotional distance, and one of her 5 children suffered from long-term addiction, reportedly leading to years of silence between them. Despite her bold public image, Leachman's private journals revealed posthumously exposed deep-seated insecurities and loneliness. In her final years, she lived a reclusive life in Encinitas, plagued by chronic pain from a car crash decades earlier. She died on January 27, 2021 at 94 of natural causes alone, but defiant to the end. Her estate, valued at $10 million, included prime real estate residuals and rare Hollywood memorabilia. Though widely celebrated, few truly knew the turbulent, emotional life she hid behind every punchline. George Coe, born May 10, 1929, played Victor Megan's dignified yet dazed husband in 2.5 Men in 2013 at the age of 84. The role, though brief, encapsulated Coe's late career presence, quietly powerful, tinged with sadness, and often overlooked. Behind his stoic on-screen image lay a life of unfulfilled potential and private suffering. Raised in Depression-era New York, Coe endured a lonely childhood marked by a distant mother and the early death of his father, which forced him into emotional self-reliance. Though he gained early notoriety as one of the original cast members of Saturday Night Live, His tenure was abruptly cut short, allegedly due to behind-the-scenes power plays with Lorne Michaels, who considered Coe's style too old school. His career became a study in near-misses recurring roles that never broke through voice acting gigs that paid but didn't satisfy. He voiced Woodhouse in Archer, only to be quietly replaced when illness made recording sessions unbearable. Industry insiders described him as quietly resentful bitter over never getting his due. Privately, Coe was a recluse, though romantically linked to several actresses he never married, and a paternity scandal emerged posthumously when a man came forward claiming to be his son from a brief affair in the 1960s. Coe had denied the connection during his life, and no provisions were made for the man in his estate. For over 20 years, Coe silently battled lymphoma, enduring repeated chemotherapy and living with constant fatigue. In his final years, he was nearly blind, dependent on a caregiver, and reportedly living in near-total isolation in Santa Monica. He passed away on July 18, 2015 at 86 after a prolonged illness. His estate, worth approximately $5 million, included modest real estate holdings and residuals from decades of steady but uncelebrated work. George Coe died largely forgotten, another talented actor swallowed by the machinery of Hollywood. Richard Lewis was born on June 29, 1947, and brought his real-life neuroses to the screen in 2004 as Stan Charlie's perpetually frazzled accountant when he was 57. On screen for mere minutes, he still managed to leave viewers both laughing and anxious. His performance was a distilled version of himself, darkly humorous, perpetually unraveling a comic who made a career of turning trauma into punchlines. But Lewis's early life was no joke. Raised in a wealthy yet cold New Jersey household, he was emotionally neglected by a socialite mother and a distant father who prioritized status over substance. By his 20s, Lewis was battling severe alcoholism and drug addiction, which nearly killed his career before it began. Throughout the 1980s, he was fired from at least 2 major projects due to erratic behavior, including an infamous incident in which he disappeared from a set for 3 days during a drug binge. Though he achieved sobriety in the early 90s, he remained mentally fragile, often paranoid and uncooperative, causing him to lose several key opportunities, most notably a starring role in a sitcom shelved after his off-screen volatility scared producers. His romantic life was equally unstable, marked by a string of failed relationships and a fear of intimacy that kept him emotionally isolated for decades. His 2005 marriage to Joyce Lipinski was seen by friends as his final grasp at stability, though insiders described the union as more caretaking than romantic. Diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2021, Lewis spent his last years in seclusion, his once sharp wit dulled by illness and depression. He died on February 27, 2024, at 76 from cardiopulmonary arrest with Parkinson's as a contributing factor. His net worth at death was estimated at $7 million, largely from Curb Your Enthusiasm and past specials. Though remembered fondly, his legacy remains shadowed by the torment he never fully escaped. Michael Clarke Duncan, born December 10, 1957 in Chicago, Illinois, took on the role of Jerome Burnett in 2.5 Men in 2008 at age 51, a towering, intimidating father figure whose warm-hearted nature sharply contrasted with his size. The role was a light-hearted one, but Duncan's personal story was anything but. Growing up in poverty on Chicago's South Side, Duncan never knew his father and often resorted to dangerous physical labor to support his single mother and younger sister. As a child, he dreamt of becoming an actor, but dropped out of college to dig ditches and guard nightclub entrances. Before Hollywood, he was involved in rough, sometimes dangerous security jobs. One stint included protecting gang-affiliated rappers. His breakout performance in The Green Mile shot him to stardom, but insiders whispered that fame unsettled him. While his public persona was calm and grounded, Duncan reportedly struggled with feelings of inadequacy and imposter syndrome, sometimes breaking down in private. His relationship with reality TV villainess Omarosa became tabloid fodder, with friends of Duncan quietly questioning the authenticity of their engagement. Some even accused her of isolating him from longtime friends and family in the months leading to his untimely death. After suffering a heart attack in July 2012, Duncan was hospitalized and placed on a ventilator. He never fully recovered and died on September 3, 2012 at just 54. His estate, worth an estimated $8 million, was left in part to Omarosa, triggering a tense dispute with his family, who accused her of controlling access to him during his final days. While the public remembers Duncan for his kind heart and thunderous voice, his death opened a bitter, unresolved rift between those who claim to love him most. Terry Rhoads was born on December 31, 1951 in Tucson, Arizona, and portrayed Dr. Andrew Spurlock in 2.5 Men in 2004 at age 53. Though his role was brief, a by-the-book doctor amid the show's relentless absurdity, it left an impression for its grounded realism. Born into a volatile household, he was the youngest of 5 and grew up under the thumb of an alcoholic mother and a father who abandoned the family when Terry was only 9. His childhood was marked by periods of homelessness, bouncing between relatives' homes and enduring constant ridicule from classmates for his shabby clothes and introverted demeanor. These early scars forged a man who became a master of masking pain with professionalism. Despite appearing in dozens of popular shows like Friends, Seinfeld, and Malcolm in the Middle, Rhoads struggled with rejection and invisibility in Hollywood. He was known as a guest star workhorse, but never broke through to lead roles, a fact that tormented him privately. Crew members from various sets recall his intense, sometimes obsessive rehearsals and his passive-aggressive feuds with casting directors who he believed pigeonholed him. A failed audition for a lead role in a primetime sitcom in 1999 reportedly sent him into a depressive spiral that led to a brief stint in a mental health facility. Although he avoided public scandal, insiders whispered about his increasing reliance on painkillers after a back injury in the early 2000s. His marriage to actress Deborah May was quietly strained, with close friends noting long periods of separation and rumored infidelity. Rhoads kept much of his anguish to himself, even as his health deteriorated from amyloidosis, a rare and painful condition that he was diagnosed with years before his death. He died on October 11, 2013 in Los Angeles at age 61. At the time, he lived alone in a modest Sherman Oaks apartment. His assets included a small pension from the Screen Actors Guild, a few residual checks, and some vintage movie memorabilia. His net worth was estimated at $1 million, but the legacy he left was of a man consumed by the need to prove his worth in an industry that never gave him his due. Orson Bean, born Dallas Frederick Burroughs on July 22, 1928, in Burlington, Vermont, took on the role of Norman in 2.5 Men in 2005 at the age of 77. Norman was a cheeky old-school flirt, much like Bean himself, quick with a story, charming to the core, but masking a deeply fractured past. Bean's early life was shaped by tragedy. His mother died by suicide when he was a teenager, and his relationship with his emotionally detached father remained strained until the end. After serving in the Army during the Korean War, he found solace in entertainment, but his career was soon derailed when he was blacklisted during the McCarthy era for attending Communist Party meetings, something he later claimed was out of curiosity rather than allegiance. This professional exile nearly broke him, leading to years of depression and substance abuse and a nervous breakdown in the late 1950s. Though he reinvented himself in the 1960s and 70s as a beloved game show guest and Broadway performer, Bean carried a reputation for being volatile and unpredictable. He was married 3 times, most notoriously to actress Carolyn Maxwell, a union that ended in public scandal after allegations of domestic disputes and infidelity. His relationship with his children was equally stormy. His son once published a tell-all accusing Bean of being a narcissistic absentee father. In private, Bean dabbled in New Age mysticism, claimed to have telepathic experiences, and even joined an eccentric spiritual commune in the 1980s. Though he found love again in his later years with actress Allie Mills, those close to him say he never truly escaped the ghosts of his past. Bean's most humiliating career moment came during a live theater performance in 1983, when a severe panic attack forced him offstage mid-show, ending his run in disgrace. He continued working sporadically into his 80s, though much of it was driven by financial necessity, not passion. On February 7, 2020, at age 91, Bean was struck and killed by a vehicle while crossing the street outside his Venice, Los Angeles home. He left behind a house in Venice, several investment accounts, and ongoing royalty streams. His estate was valued at approximately $4 million. Mike Connors, born on August 15, 1925 in Fresno, California, took on the role of Hugo in 2.5 Men in 2007 at the age of 82. Hugo, though a brief character, exuded old Hollywood sophistication and wit qualities that Connors carried effortlessly after decades of playing suave detectives and gentlemen. Yet behind that refined charm was a man who grew up with wounds he rarely spoke about. Born Krekor Ohanian to Armenian immigrant parents, Connors endured a turbulent childhood in a home plagued by cultural alienation and strict discipline. His father, a laborer, expected Mike to become a lawyer or doctor, and his mother reportedly imposed harsh emotional distance, making affection conditional on success. As a child, Mike was bullied for his ethnicity, and these early experiences instilled a sense of internalized shame that would haunt him even during his most celebrated roles. While Mannix made him a household name, Connors clashed bitterly with CBS executives over the show's creative direction, at one point threatening to walk off unless given more control. This earned him a reputation as difficult, and after Mannix ended in 1975, he struggled to land serious roles, spending years in made-for-TV obscurity. More disturbingly, rumors from former co-stars hinted at Connors being emotionally manipulative on set, allegedly demanding female co-stars be recast if they didn't match his energy. He also battled a long-hidden alcohol addiction throughout the 80s and was known to disappear for days during filming. Despite being married to Mary Lou Willie for over 6 decades, sources claim the marriage was more business than romance in later years. Their only son, Matthew, was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and Connors kept this private for fear of public judgment, reportedly spending a fortune on failed treatments. Mike Connors died on January 26, 2017 from leukemia at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Los Angeles, aged 91. At the time of his death, his estate, including a classic car collection real estate in Toluca Lake and long-running residuals from Mannix, was valued at approximately $6 million. Suzanne Whang was born on September 28, 1962 in Arlington, Virginia, and appeared in 2.5 Men in 2005 at age 43, portraying a quiet, efficient anesthesiologist. Raised in a conservative Korean-American household that demanded academic perfection and emotional restraint, Suzanne spent her youth secretly battling body dysmorphia and identity confusion. Despite earning a psychology degree from Yale and a master's from Brown, she felt trapped between cultures, too American for her family, too foreign for mainstream media. This complex duality birthed her infamous alter ego, Sung-hee Park, an exaggerated controversial stereotype of an Asian immigrant that divided audiences. Some hailed it as brilliant satire, others deemed it offensive. Suzanne reveled in provocation, once admitting in a podcast that she used the character as a weapon against white discomfort. Her career was marked by extreme highs, becoming the beloved host of House Hunters, and devastating lows, including losing that same job after clashing with producers over creative control. Her personal life was equally tumultuous. Her marriage to actor Jay Nickerson was brief and publicly fraught, with friends recalling volatile arguments and emotional abuse allegations whispered behind closed doors. She also revealed later in life that she had endured sexual assault in the industry, but was discouraged from coming forward. Diagnosed with invasive breast cancer in 2006, she fought it publicly and unconventionally, often rejecting traditional chemotherapy in favor of spiritual healing, acupuncture, and meditation. Critics lambasted her choices while fans admired her defiance. In 2018, she made a return to comedy, bearing her mastectomy scars on stage, challenging Hollywood's superficiality head-on. Despite her courage, her health deteriorated rapidly the following year. Suzanne died on September 17, 2019, just 11 days before her 57th birthday, at her Los Angeles home surrounded by close friends. Her assets included a small condo and Koreatown rights to her stand-up material and residuals from past hosting gigs. Her estate was valued at around $1.5 million. Tonita Castro, born on January 8, 1953 in Jalisco, Mexico, gave life to the character Esmeralda in 2.5 Men in 2010 at the age of 57. Esmeralda, a sassy and endearing housekeeper, was a minor character, but left a memorable impression, much like Castro herself, who brought charisma and truth to every role. But her path to Hollywood was anything but glamorous. Tonita immigrated to the United States as a young adult, undocumented, and without formal training in acting. For years, she worked in Spanish-language radio in Los Angeles, barely making ends meet while quietly sending money home to support relatives in Mexico. Her late start in acting, only in her 50s, was considered miraculous in an industry that discards women after 30. However, the roles she was offered were almost exclusively typecasts, maids, cooks, and immigrant mothers. While she brought authenticity to each, she reportedly grew bitter at being boxed into stereotypes. Friends recall her weeping after auditions, where she was told she was too Mexican or not funny enough. Despite her cheerful persona on screen, Castro endured decades of emotional hardship. She never married, and close sources have stated she suffered from loneliness and depression, particularly after the death of her mother, which she kept private for years. Diagnosed with stomach cancer in 2015, Castro refused to slow down, continuing to work until her condition became too debilitating. Her illness progressed rapidly, and by early 2016, she was bedridden. The industry barely noticed. She passed away on May 8, 2016 in Los Angeles at the age of 63 with no public tribute from major studios or networks. At the time of her death, her assets included a modest bungalow in East LA, small savings, and a few valuable personal items, totaling a net worth of around $1 million. Her death raised uncomfortable questions about how Hollywood uses and disposes of its character actors, especially women of color. John Polito, born December 29, 1950 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, portrayed the memorable Mr. Sharipa in 2.5 Men in 2008 at the age of 58. Known for his signature gravelly voice and imposing presence, Polito infused the role with a darkly comic energy. But Polito's path to the screen was paved with pain battles with identity and professional sabotage. Growing up in a conservative Italian-American household, he knew from an early age that he was gay, something he had to suppress completely in his working-class neighborhood. His childhood was one of hiding denial and fear of being found out, leading to lifelong self-esteem issues. Although his talent landed him consistent roles, Polito's temperament often clashed with Hollywood's political game. His biggest career misstep came with Homicide: Life on the Street, where he publicly criticized the showrunners after being written off. The move was widely viewed as career suicide, and it cost him major TV offers for nearly a decade. Few knew that at the time, Polito was spiraling through a dangerous gambling addiction and self-medicating with painkillers. Insiders from multiple film sets recall outbursts and emotional breakdowns, reportedly stemming from a deep mistrust of authority and a refusal to be managed. Though later openly gay, Polito's early years in the closet left a trail of fractured relationships and regret. He was in a long-term relationship with writer Daryl Armbruster, but their romance was turbulent, marked by dramatic fights and long separations. Diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2008, Polito continued acting while undergoing intensive treatments, at times collapsing on set, but insisting on completing scenes. He refused to let the illness define him, yet the emotional toll became visible in his increasingly gaunt appearance and erratic interviews. John Polito died on September 1, 2016, at the age of 65 at City of Hope Hospital. At the time of his death, his estate, including residuals from cult classics like The Big Lebowski, a modest Hollywood condo, and various royalties, was valued at around $2.5 million. Thank you for watching as we reflected on the lives and legacies of the actors from 2.5 Men who are no longer with us. Their humor, charm, and unforgettable performances brought joy to millions and helped shape the show into a classic. While their journeys ended far too soon, their impact lives on through every scene, every laugh, and every memory they've left behind. As we honor their lives, we're reminded of how deeply television can touch our hearts. Join us next time as we look back at more stars who left us too soon, but whose stories continue to shine.